At the start of this movie, a group of 6 astronauts is sent to Mars. People go to search for life on Mars. They don't land there, but instead stay in their spaceship and send a capsule to Mars through a machine so that soil samples can be collected from Mars's surface. And now when that capsule was coming to them, something collided in space and changed its direction. Now these people had to bring that capsule back to the spaceship, and finally, after 8 months of effort, the capsule was coming to them. To get it, an astronaut risks his life and goes into space. The astronaut who goes out to get that capsule is named Rory. In the spaceship, Dr. Hugh tests those capsule soil samples, and when he puts those soil samples in an incubator, he finds that there's a single-cell organism in that soil, meaning life exists on Mars. That organism isn't progressing in the incubator, and that's why Dr. Hugh thinks the organism is dead. But when they lower the incubator's temperature, the organism responds. Within a few days, we see that organism change into a multicellular organism. On the other side, Earth's people are very happy hearing that life exists on Mars too. Now, astronauts and school children do a video chat from the spaceship, where the children suggest the name Calvin for this alien. Calvin, the organism we got from Mars. Despite being small, it shakes hands with Dr. Hugh, and seeing all this, all the astronauts are shocked that an organism just a few centimeters can respond so much. Now a few days pass, and the organism stops responding completely, and then Dr. Hugh gives it a shock. Suddenly it wakes up and comes on top of their hand. The alien organism Calvin grabs the doctor's hand so hard that the bones in their hand fracture, and they lose consciousness from pain. And as soon as Calvin releases the doctor's hand, the doctor pulls their hand out. Now that organism wants to come out of that incubator, but because of the gloves at the incubator's opening, it can't come out. It tries very hard to engulf the gloves, but the gloves were made of high-quality material. And now that organism puts an electric pen inside the gloves and comes out. In their lab, there was also a mouse. The organism quickly goes on top of that mouse, and in just seconds engulfs it inside itself. Like that, we see that organism's size suddenly becomes very large. Now Rory comes to that part of the spaceship where the lab is. He wants to pull Hugh out, but organism Calvin comes with his leg. That's why the other astronaut has to close that place's door from outside, because they can't put other people's lives in danger, and that's why they do that. The other astronauts outside are giving instructions. So the organism moves away from their foot. Over there, the spaceship's captain instructs Dr. Rory to light a candle so that heat is produced. Bring it near this alien so your foot is released, because she knew that this alien can't tolerate heat. We saw this earlier too when Dr. Hugh lowered the incubator's temperature to keep it alive. Here the organism releases Rory's foot but quickly goes inside his mouth. That way, astronaut Rory dies. We learned that organism Calvin has a lot of brain inside, which it uses to escape the incubator earlier. It also killed Rory. Calvin can plan everything with the help of its brain and can kill everyone, and this thing could be very dangerous. Now all the astronauts are trying to kill organism Calvin, and they also release poisonous gas in that room where Rory and Calvin are. But Calvin now very cleverly looks for those openings through which the poisonous gas is coming so that it can use those openings to escape. As soon as the astronauts see that, they quickly start closing all the openings. But because their computer system is broken, they have to close the openings one by one, and suddenly Calvin comes out through one opening. All the astronauts are recording a message for Earth, in which they tell that the organism is very dangerous, but they can't communicate with Earth because there's some problem with their transmitter. One astronaut decides that she'll go out and fix those transmitters. Here that astronaut sees that the transmitter is very hot, and when she opens its cooling system and looks, the organism Calvin is there, and it quickly gets out. It sticks to that astronaut's suit. Now Calvin has gripped their suit very tightly. He wants to go inside the suit. But because the suit is very secure, he can't get inside. But the doctor's suit's coolant pipe breaks. It was meant to regulate their oxygen and temperature, and that's how all the coolant's moisture comes on their helmet, and now they can't see anything. Here the other astronauts want to bring that astronaut inside. But that astronaut closes the spaceship's door again, because the dangerous organism was with her. She jumps into space with that organism, but that organism comes back to the spaceship. That way, the lady astronaut dies. That organism wants to come inside the spaceship, and it can only come from one place, and that's the spaceship's thruster. Yes, he comes out from the spaceship's engine, and now the astronauts inside decide that as soon as Calvin comes on top of any thruster, we'll start the engine. A lot of heat will go to the thruster, and it will die from that heat. So they try very hard to keep Calvin outside, and in this effort, their fuel gets very low, and in such a situation, that spaceship starts moving towards Earth. But they can't take that spaceship to Earth, because Calvin could also go there with them, which they don't want to take to Earth, because he's very dangerous. Here they barely stabilize their spaceship. They also turn off the thrusters, which is why Calvin comes inside the spaceship. Then after a while, we see Dr. Hugh's condition becomes very bad, and here the other astronauts learn that Dr. Hugh has had a heart attack, and they also give him electric shocks. At that same time, another astronaut feels their leg is heavy, like there's something inside their uniform, and as soon as they open their uniform, there's organism Calvin, now very big. And Dr. Hugh couldn't feel it because he was handicapped. Then Dr. Hugh died, and Calvin wants to kill the other astronauts. Now, 2 astronauts move towards the outside, and 1 astronaut goes to his sleeping pod. Calvin comes towards that sleeping pod and tries very hard to break its mirror. But that mirror is very strong and doesn't break. On the other side, we see the other 2 astronauts use Dr. Hugh's body as a trap. As soon as that alien is eating Dr. Hugh's body, we see that another aircraft comes from Earth to their spaceship. The job of this aircraft was to push that spaceship back towards space. Because when the commander astronaut recorded that message for Earth, in which he said the alien is very dangerous, that message reached Earth before their connection was cut off. That astronaut who is locked in his sleeping pod thinks this rescue ship came from Earth, and that's why he comes out of his pod and goes to that room where the other 2 astronauts have trapped that alien. Now that alien also attacks that man, and that way, that astronaut also dies. Here only 2 astronauts are left. They both decide that one of them will go to Earth, and the other will go to space as a trap for that alien. Both do exactly that. Astronaut David becomes bait for that alien, and brings it to his pod. He locks it inside, and on the other side, the other astronaut is recording a message for Earth, in which she tells how astronaut David sacrificed for Earth's people. We see that one pod is going towards Earth, and another towards space. And soon after, we see that one pod falls into water on Earth, where fishermen see that pod, and this pod belonged to that astronaut who fell with the alien. And he reached Earth this way because something collided with him in space. On the other side, that lady astronaut is lost somewhere in space. And this way, the alien has now reached Earth, and with this, the movie ends here.